May 14, 1943, 29,000 feet above the English Channel. Hauptmann Josef Vermheller's voice crackled through the radio of his Focke-Wulf, dripping with amusement. "Look at these American pigs trying to fly. They've sent us beer barrels with wings." Below him, 17 Republic P-47 Thunderbolts crawled toward German airspace, their grotesque silhouettes looking more like industrial mistakes than instruments of war. What Vermheller couldn't know, what no Luftwaffe pilot circling above could have imagined in their wildest nightmares, was that within 18 months, this flying bathtub would become the single most devastating weapon system ever deployed against German aviation. Those laughing German aces were staring at their own extinction. This is the untold story of how American industrial brutality defeated European tactical genius, how 8 synchronized machine guns became the angel of death, and how German laughter turned to screams in the stratosphere. Summer 1940. France had collapsed in 6 weeks. The Luftwaffe owned European skies. American military planners were experiencing a crisis that bordered on terror. Alexander Kartveli sat in his Republic Aviation office, staring at specifications that seemed impossible. The Army Air Corps wanted a high-altitude interceptor that could match, no, exceed anything Germany had created. What emerged from Kartveli's Georgian immigrant engineering genius was nothing short of obscene. The XP-47B prototype that rolled out on May 6, 1941, made grown men stop and stare. At 12,000 pounds fully loaded, it weighed more than some twin-engine bombers. The fuselage resembled a bloated whale. The massive Pratt & Whitney radial engine stuck out like a pregnant belly. Test pilot Lowry Brabham's first words upon seeing it. "You expect me to get that thing airborne?" But beneath that grotesque exterior lived revolutionary engineering that would rewrite aerial warfare. The R2-800 double Wasp engine, 18 cylinders of American excess producing 2,000 horsepower. More power than any single-engine fighter had ever attempted to harness. The turbo-supercharger system, with its serpentine ducting coiled through the rear fuselage like mechanical intestines, could maintain sea-level power at altitudes where German fighters gasped and wheezed. And the weapons system, 8 M2 Browning 50 caliber machine guns with 3,400 rounds of ammunition. Not the rifle-caliber pop guns of early fighters. Not even the heavy but ammo-starved cannons favored by Europe. Pure American firepower philosophy. If some is good, overwhelming is better. Major Hubert Zemke watched his 56th Fighter Group bleed during training at Bridgeport, Connecticut, through late 1942. The Thunderbolt was killing American pilots faster than combat would. 18 pilots dead, 41 aircraft destroyed. The beast ground-looped on landing, torque rolled on takeoff, and dove so enthusiastically that pilots discovered compressibility, their controls locking up as shock waves formed over the wings approaching the speed of sound. "It's not an airplane," one instructor said bitterly. "It's a suicide machine with propellers." But those who survived the learning curve discovered something extraordinary. Lieutenant Robert Johnson, an Oklahoma farm boy who would become legend, described his first successful flight. "It felt like riding a runaway locomotive made of lightning and rage. You didn't finesse this machine, you dominated it or it dominated you." By March 1943, as the first Thunderbolt groups prepared for combat deployment to England, the specifications should have terrified German intelligence. Maximum speed 433 miles per hour at 30,000 feet. Service ceiling 43,000 feet, higher than any Luftwaffe fighter could reach. Armament delivering 6,000 rounds per minute. 3/8-inch steel plate protecting the pilot. Bulletproof glass. Armored engine cowling. Structural strength designed to withstand 12G forces. But German intelligence officers, reading these reports, laughed. "The Americans have built a bomber and called it a fighter," one analyst wrote dismissively. "It will be target practice for our boys." That assessment would age like milk in the desert sun. April 15, 1943. The 4th Fighter Group's Thunderbolts made their combat debut over Belgium. Oberleutnant Egon Mayer, one of Germany's most skilled tacticians, led his Focke-Wulf 190s into what he expected to be a turkey shoot. The results seemed to confirm every German prejudice. The Thunderbolts couldn't turn with the nimble Focke-Wulfs, couldn't climb with the Messerschmitt 109s. At medium altitude, they handled like flying refrigerators. Mayer's combat report dripped with contempt. The new American type is hopelessly outclassed. Large, clumsy, unable to maneuver. Our pilots are calling them jug, as in milk jug. Fat, slow, harmless. May 1943 brought more of the same. 14 Thunderbolts lost for only 3 confirmed kills. RAF Spitfire pilots, watching from adjacent squadrons, offered the Americans sympathetic advice. Perhaps consider switching to a real fighter. But Luftwaffe intelligence was missing something critical in their reports. Yes, Thunderbolts were being shot down, but the ones that went down had absorbed punishment that would have vaporized any German fighter. One P-47 returned from a May 8th mission with 21 cannon shell holes and over 100 machine gun strikes. The pilot walked away. The damage report noted, "Structural integrity maintained throughout. Engine continued operation despite multiple penetrating hits. Aircraft repairable." A Messerschmitt or Focke-Wulf with that damage would be scattered across the French countryside. More ominously, when P-47s did get their guns on target, German aircraft didn't just fall, they exploded. Unteroffizier Hans Berger, who survived being hit by Thunderbolt fire, described it in a POW interrogation. "It was like being struck by a metal hurricane, not bullets, industrial machinery. My aircraft didn't have holes. It had chunks torn away." June 26, 1943. This date would haunt Luftwaffe nightmares. Second Lieutenant Robert S. Johnson's P-47 was jumped by 16 Focke-Wulf 190 SL from Jagerschwader 26 over northern France. What followed became legendary on both sides of the conflict. Multiple 20mm cannon shells shredded Johnson's aircraft. The canopy shattered. Hydraulic fluid sprayed. Engine cowling torn away. Fire erupted behind the instruments. Johnson, wounded by shrapnel, tried to bail out. The canopy was jammed. A shell had exploded in the track mechanism, welding it shut. He was trapped in a dying machine at 27,000 feet. Despite having no forward visibility through the oil-smeared windscreen, despite controls that barely responded, despite an engine shaking itself apart, Johnson pointed the Thunderbolt toward England, and it kept flying. Then a lone Focke-Wulf 190 found the crippled bomber. The German pilot, never definitively identified, though post-war research suggests Unteroffizier Heinz Gohmann, positioned behind Johnson and opened fire. 4 20mm cannons, 2 13mm machine guns.